Here we go. All right, so let's begin with the second session of the SAISA Speaker Series, featuring Jon Faudree, head coach of sailing at Jacksonville University. Has brought that program back, or brought that to national competitive level in just a short couple of years. It's been awesome to watch your program develop. Jon is, however, as I alluded to in the email, you know, he's one of the best at boat handling and the basics and the foundation you got to have to be competitive. So I think we're really great to hear from him tonight. I'm sad that he's not delivering this from the water, because it is quite a sight to see him roll an FJ. So without further ado, Jon Faudree, you want to go ahead and take over? And if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll try and filter those in. And other than that, Jon, you're on.
Yeah, please, Dana, feel free to interrupt me any point if there's people asking questions. I probably will not be paying attention to the chat. So
all right, I got it.
Feel free to jump in and stop me wherever we are, and definitely ask questions if any of this doesn't make sense to you guys. I'm glad to be here. Happy to try to help people out. Boat handling, roll tacking has always been one of my favorite things to talk about, and favorite things to coach. You know, in our sport, more than any other time, at the college level, roll tacking, boat handling becomes imperative, and you know, those extra inches make for huge gains down the road by the time you get to a windward mark. So just gonna go through here a couple different things. And one, the real fallacy of even calling a roll tack is just plain simply the fact that your speed doesn't come from the roll, right? You're not getting anything out of the roll part of the roll tack. We want to start thinking of the roll tack as a flattened tack. The flatten is where we get the speed from. And think about the roll as just a set up to that flatten. I threw up here, you can see two videos. One is of a loon trying to take off, and his wings just like flapping back and forth, right? Takes him forever to get off the water. Where the eagle, a slow rise and a quick flap is where the eagle generates the lift to take off. And that's how we want to start thinking of the roll tack, is more, you know, the slow roll, letting the boat roll, and then focusing on the flatten and gaining speed from that. So I just threw up here a few key points. One, we just talked about slow your roll. Don't try so hard. Let the boat roll. Again, it's not about the roll, it's about the flatten, and then really working together. We find a lot of freshmen, or certainly laser sailors, come in. Laser sailors typically are really good at roll tacks in the laser, and then suffer in the FJN 420 because they're worried too much about themselves and not working with the crew. So take your time, skippers, drivers, especially if you're coming at this from a laser background, is really work, especially at your practices, to wait and be patient and get the crew to keep up with you. It's going to make your tack so much better down the road. And again, I just mentioned this earlier, but let the boat do the work for you. Another thing we see typically from freshmen and, some less experienced people is rushing the turn on the tacks as well. I have two little diagrams here of tacking. The one to the left, the yellow to blue, is what we see a lot. People jamming the tiller away really hard in the tack, turning the boat really quickly, and thinking that getting on the new tack quickly is going to help them in the roll tack. Where in effect, you turn really quickly, you stop your boat, and then now anything flattening, anything from your roll tack is accelerating from a stop and not from having momentum. The FJ and 420 obviously have a lot more momentum than some other boats, other two-person dinghies. We want to use that to our advantage. All right, the only time we're ever able to go directly towards the windward mark is when we go through a tack. All right, using that boat's momentum to turn up into the wind, right? Gain distance directly towards our mark before we come across on our new tack. All right, be looking to gain that distance to the windward mark. Be looking to conserve your speed, use your momentum to get through the tack. And so the boat will still be moving on the other side, and you're flattening and accelerating from an already moving boat and not just spinning your boat and stopping. So again, slow things down. I also drew an arrow here. It's not directly, I couldn't get it lined up correctly, you know, transferring stuff over into PowerPoint, but the point is that when you flatten the boat, your apparent wind actually shifts aft. And we'll talk more about this as we go through the video, but trimming your sails to the apparent wind versus trimming the sails to the actual wind direction. All right, we want to be thinking coming out of a roll tack, flattening with our sails ease to generate lift across those sails. If we don't ease our sails, when you flatten the boat will slide underneath the sails. Right? We want the sails to accelerate above the boat and generate lift, which will propel us forward. Does that make sense, everybody? All right. So what are 3 ways we can turn the boat without using the rudder? Anyone want to jump in here? You can either shout it out or throw it in the Matthew Motz, I see you're on here.
Using your weight.
What's that?
Rolling the boat with your weight.
Using our weight, right? Well, using our weight, sails, good.
We've got trim in the chat from Jesse Price.
So for this specific, what I'm looking for is weight, but 2 different ways to use our weight. Sails are definitely one. All right. Main in, trimming your main, heads the boat up. Easing your main, heads the boat down. Right. Easing the jib, heads the boat up. Over trimming the jib, heads the boat down. All right. But for our weight, the obvious one is weight to leeward, heads the boat up. Weight to windward, heads the boat down. What other things can we do with our weight in relation to the boat to turn the boat?
We could use it to make sure we don't flip.
That would be a good one. Yeah, not flipping is good. I'm just thinking just turning.
Moving forward to head down and backwards to head up.
I'm not sure. I didn't really hear that, but moving your weight aft, heads the boat up. Moving your weight forward, heads the boat down. All right, so try it out sometime when you get out there. It's all about shifting, right? Moving your center of effort behind your center of lateral resistance. We can get into that if you want at some other point. But keep in mind, weight to leeward, heads the boat up. Weight to windward, heads the boat down. Weight aft, heads the boat up. Weight forward, heads the boat down. Okay. Now the problem with that is, you'll see a lot of people heeling the boat to leeward going into a tack. That's effectively like pulling up your centerboard a quarter of the way going into the tack, right? When you go from, heeling the boat to leeward around a leeward mark and heading up, that's fine. We're not using the centerboard at that point anyways. But when we are going upwind, think about pulling your centerboard up a quarter of the way or halfway, and then trying to tack, what that would look like, right? And that's when you would slide sideways and Tokyo drift around the tack. So we have to be very careful about heeling the boat to leeward going into the tack. A lot of you guys have been taught to heel the boat to leeward, and so I would argue that heeling the boat to leeward is actually not a good thing. All right, I'll show you a little video. This isn't much of a heel to leeward here, but just a little bit. I want you to focus on the stern of the boat here as he goes through it. I'll play it again. Watch how the stern of the boat slides sideways as you go into the tack. Right, you're just losing
Kinda
that
fast.
momentum that could drive you up into the tack and round. Does somebody want to jump in there? Right here, all right, we're Tokyo drifting through our tack, and everybody that watched Formula One knows that Tokyo drifting isn't fast. All right, stern slides sideways, boat turns quickly like we talked about before, but it comes to almost a complete stop through that. The rest of the tack is pretty good. All right, this is getting really nitpicky on this one, but it showed just that little bit of heel. Hopefully you can see where potential issues would come from, especially if you heel the boat to leeward even more. All right, one of the things we have to be really aware of is the heeling to windward, especially as you go into the tack. As you come up 5-10 degrees, the pressure is going to come off the sail. Right, it's no longer going to
Can't
be.
that slow you down?
I'm sorry.
Can't that slow you down?
Yes, exactly. That's my point. This is bad. Windward heel is bad too. Thank you. If that wasn't clear, windward heel is bad as well going into the tack, right? Because what we've got to be aware of as crews and drivers, but mostly as crews, is as the pressure comes off the sail, the boat is naturally going to heel to windward, and we've got to be very aware of that as we go through. You can see here just a little bit of windward heel. Let me mute this really quick, sorry. As we go through this tack here, right here, we haven't reached head to wind yet, and the boat's already heeling to windward. And when I let this play, I'll let it play at full speed. You'll be able to see the boat kind of stall out as they're trying to turn the boat, as they're going through head to wind. And then the driver will have to use a lot more rudder to turn the boat. And again, turning quickly.
That also can slow you down as well, can it?
Yes, exactly. Using too much rudder will slow you down, right? That's putting on the handbrake as you go through. So let me play this again, just let it go for you at full speed. Notice how the boat heels to windward just a little bit, stalls out, and then they have to use more rudder, and that throws off the timing of the tack. So really being conscious of the angle of heel as you go through the tack is going to be really important. In really light drifting conditions, adding 5 to 10 degrees of leeward heel is potentially a really good thing, but just be very careful of overdoing that. All right, so one of the things you want to do as crews, and really promoting active crew work, is to be aware that when we head up, that boat will naturally tend to heel to windward. Oops, sorry. I want you to focus on the movement of the crew here. As they come up, look how she comes in. And then bang, jib backwinds, go.
So she had to use extra weight so then they could do a roll tack?
I'm sorry?
So they had to use extra weight to use a roll tack because she went forward, to the left of the boat, and then she went to the right very quickly.
Yes, very good. I guess we kind of skipped ahead of things here. I'm glad you slowed me down. Yes, notice how active she is, moving in to make sure the boat doesn't heel to windward, And then she's looking at the jib, waiting for it to backwind. And then as soon as the jib backwinds, right, that's our key to start the roll. There's a couple things I want to focus on here, and we'll get into some more of the key points later. But the body positioning, right? I always tell my crews, I'll give them $100 if they can rip this windward block off the side of the boat. Now that our boats are getting a little older, I have come away from that $100. But you know, you pulling the boat over on top of you, we're going to spend a lot of time about pulling the boat over on top of you, but this is a good spot where it stopped here.
Just secretly put in a new one.
I'm sorry?
Just secretly put in a new one and don't tell them.
Yes, okay, I'll do that. Some of the other things, yeah, we'll get into the other stuff later. I wanted to focus mostly there on the active crew. All right, couple key things here. If you look at this top left picture, the crew is really trying here to pull the boat over on top of it, right? She extended her shoulders over the side, all right, really pulling on that. In this case, it's a Z420, so she's pulling on the fair lead. The same thing holds true for 420s and FJs. If pull that fair lead off the side of the boat. You know, again, these are LPs, so I might not give someone $100, but you know, those things tend to fall apart. But we don't need to try this hard. It's more important that we are able to get up afterwards, right? And actually, if she were to sit straight up and down, she'd actually have more leverage pulling the boat over on top of her with that fair lead. All right. The driver, notice butt position is in. Anytime anyone's ever told you, drivers, to get your butt wet, or crews to get your butt wet on the roll tack, throw that out the window. Ignore that. We don't want to do that. Again, it's more important. We'll look at where we actually get the roll from, and it doesn't come from getting your butt wet. That's only going to make life difficult for you guys. So keep that in mind as we go through this talk here. A couple other things I want to talk about. We will be talking a lot about is the crew and the driver, their straight arm as they come up. Keeping that arm straight as you grab onto the windward rail. This is where we get the roll from. This straight arm from the crew and obviously from the driver. We'll look more at that as we go on. I do want to highlight here, and the reason why I threw this up, the other reason besides the straight arm, is the handoff. A lot of you have come from opties, and in opties, you probably remember your coaches doing the old tacking drill where you tack, arm behind your back with a tiller extension, and then they blow another whistle and you're able to switch, you're allowed to switch hands. All right. The problem with that in any other boat is we got to get that hand switch done so we're able to control the boat. Couple other things on the flatten, foot under the thwart for the driver. All right, and then keeping that forward foot, whether you're in an FJ or a 420, keeping that forward foot out. The aft foot for the crew goes underneath the hiking strap or underneath the centerboard trunk, however you want to do it. That part doesn't bother me, but keeping that forward foot out, that's what we call the dangle foot. All right, if you ever hear somebody talk about a dangle foot, it's that foot there. That's the foot you come back into the boat with. And we'll look at some more video later of that. One of the things we talked about here is the crew has over trimmed the jib here. We'll look at we'll look at more examples in over trim jib and jibs that are trimmed correctly. But body positioning wise, both the skipper and crew are pretty good here.
I've got a
Hi,
question
John.
Yep.
Could you elaborate on what you mean by the straight arm?
The straight
On
arm,
the
yes.
windward rail?
Yeah, I'm going to get into that a lot here in a little bit.
Thank you.
I've got a quick
But
question about
please
the.
jump back in if you still have questions about that after a minute here. All right, this is what happens if you
Hey,
don't
John,
get
we
the
had-
hand switch.
We had one more question, John, on the last.
Yep.
So it's to do with the top left picture. So are you saying that using the windward sheet as a lever is better than using your weight on the tanks when you're trying to pull the boat over as a crew?
Yes, yes. We'll look at more examples. Both of the pulling the boat over on top of you with the fairlead jib or fairlead jib sheet or the jib sheet block. Again, I'll show some better examples of that coming up.
Thank you.
But if you still have questions about that, please jump in later on. This is just an example of a European Spanish kid trying to roll tack. Europeans don't switch their hands, you know, and this is just what happens if you don't do that. All right, boat's totally out of control, not able to control angle of heel or main trim tension, all that stuff. So we really want to focus on hand switches later on. Here's an example of a freshman trying to roll a boat, right? And this is what I mean. This is only showing this from the opposite side. You can't actually see how long they're down there. But if you ever have a hard time getting to the windward rail, it's most likely because you're trying to roll too much. And notice how long the driver stays on the low side here and how much he struggles to get up. And I will continue to reference the rudder being out of the water. If anybody, hopefully you can see my little mouse hand here. Notice how far the rudder's out of the water. We use that as a reference on how hard you roll. So keep that in mind as we go through this. But it's just a real struggle to get up to the high side if you roll the boat, if you wait too long on the low side. All right, I'm gonna continue with the bent arm on the roll tack and the flatten. All right. Notice here that the crew with their arm bent, I call it the chicken wing, and anytime anyone does, I go just so they know that they're doing this. The chicken wing arm, the crew is pulling their body to the rail, right? All she's doing is pulling her body to the rail and not the rail to her body. And again, we'll look at some more videos here. Bear with me as we go through this. All right, the driver does a nice job of keeping his arm straight here, well, a little bit bent. Notice that at the peak, at the apex of their heel, their rudder's tip is still in the water. It's a decent tack, right? It's not a bad tack. Very smooth tack. But I want to show you an example. Whoops, I had a problem with one of the other ones. All right. So this is when we first got our Z420s, and at that point we weren't tacking backwards. And we've also changed. This was 6-7 years ago. This specific video was 6 or 7 years ago, and so we've changed how we come back into the boat after the flatten. All right, but for this, I want to focus on a couple things here. Sugar, sorry. The big thing being that straight arm that we talked about. All right, notice how both of them are coming up exactly at the same time. And then notice, we'll look at the horizon here. Notice how they stand straight up and they get the boat to roll from this pulling the boat over here. so that the apex of their heel, the most it heels, is right here as our butts hit the rail. And again, that comes from that straight arm pulling that boat to their butt versus like we saw in the video before, that bent arm just pulling their body up to the rail. All right. Again, we'll take a peek at that hand switch. And one of the really important things for drivers to get this hand switch right is that your thumb needs to face your hip with your fingers down, your main sheet, right? Your main sheet hand. Notice how the driver, their thumb is towards their hip, their fingers are down, they have the main sheet in their hand. And then this hand, the tiller extension hand, has to pass that clearly behind their back, right? If you grab it with the palm, your palm up, thumb out, main sheet hand, palm up, thumb out, that's when you have to, I'm sure some of you recognize, you flatten the boat and you have to turn the tiller extension back over to get it to face like a microphone. What we want to do is bang, that tiller comes right out in front of your face, microphone style, ready to go. So again, the big thing is the that straight arm. All right, hand switch is there. Notice how far out his main sheet is, right? And the main sail is, the boom is almost touching the water. But as soon as he starts accelerating on the flatten, that main is full, right? The apparent wind is shifted aft. The wind is now coming from more of a beam reach course. We need to have that sail eased to generate lift. Right, any other time, right? If we were close hauled like their course is right now, that main would be luffing. It's a big fan, and that's the other thing, you can get a pump fan in at the end of the tack if your main is out. All right, just another example. Straight arm, pull the rail to them, fan the sail in at the end. This, we're showing it from the front, and again, in the Z420, we now face aft, and we're in front of the thwart. But this video gives you a good idea. Dang it! Sorry. This video gives you a good idea of all the things we're talking about because it is facing forward. All you have to do as a crew is turn around in an FJ, or if you're sailing a Z420, turn around. Again, body position, look how far in her butt is here. Body position straight up and down. Her chest is facing forward, not across the boat. Again, that's a common mistake that both the skippers and crews make, is to face perpendicular to the boat instead of squaring your shoulders up with either the front, or for crews and FJs and 420s, aft. What we want to do is just a side step across the boat. Imagine if you were facing your chest inboard here, perpendicular to the boat, you would be pulling a full 180 as you go up. We want to take one of those steps out. Do it, square your shoulders up sooner at the beginning. It'll make your life a lot easier. Again, real straight arm here, pulling that rail to your body. All right, again, apex of the heel right here, and they are fully extended, all right, on the rail. I'll let the next one just play at regular speed. Pull, 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 pull. She does bend her arm a little bit there. We won't have fun at that. All right. A couple other things we want to talk about. So keep in mind that, shoot. Keep in mind that there's no wind here, or next to no wind here. Nice, slow, smooth turn. Body positioning is in. And then we're going to focus on the way she enters the boat at the end of the tack here. But again, slow turn. Come on, pop up here. this is what we were talking about with the driver turning facing aft. Remember, moving our weight aft helps turn our boat up anyway. Squaring your chest with the front of the boat so it's just a side step and not trying to pull a full 180 as you go through. Crew position here, straight up and down, right? Very good posture, straight arm pulling like crazy on that jib. Couple things before we even go into that and back this thing up. Notice that what the crew is looking at. Hopefully you guys can see this on their computer. She's looking at the jib out of the corner of her eye, right? That's your reference point for when to start your roll tack. You don't want to start your tack too early, because if you finish too early, you're on either a close hauled course or slightly above, and you're not getting anything out of the flat. We want to come out just low on our new course to make sure that we have something to flatten against. But look how she's really focused on that jib. Bam, the jib backwinds. She now takes her arm, puts it on the rail, lifts up and drops her butt on the rail. Getting that initial part of the roll, but again, the major part of the roll comes from this pull here, trying to pull the block off, and then pulling the boat to your butt as you come up. The rudder would have just popped out of the water and let us know that's a pretty good tack. The other thing, if you find yourself pulling the jib sheet in on a tack, then you're not doing this right. The crew, as you just saw, all she does is just take the jib sheet with her as she goes up. All right, I'll play this one a couple more times because she's good. But notice here she has her dangle foot on top of the centerboard trunk, ready to come in. And steps into the boat, and then notice how she doesn't go right to her butt here. I'm going to stop it a couple times. One, she's standing. Two, look how easy these sails are. Both the sails are really eased. She comes into the boat and she immediately looks up at the jib. All right, she's looking at her jib trim, making sure she doesn't over trim that jib. And the other thing she does is, you'll see here, the boat is just about to heel to windward. So watch how she shifts her butt and her weight to leeward right there. She just moves her weight, shifts it to that right foot. Make sure we don't heel to windward. Now it's going to heel to leeward. She shifts her butt back and then finally sits down. All right. So coming into the boat after the tack, facing the side of the boat, so you'll be able to see the jib and balance the boat before you sit down. Put it all together, let it roll here all together. Slow turn, boat still moving. Pull the boat to you, flatten, stand up, balance, 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 and then sit down. This here is about one of the best tacks you'll see. Well, let me hit the. Same thing. Now Danny here never was able to break him out of trying to get his butt wet, but he was also able to get his body up to the high side, so it wasn't that big a deal. I want to back up here. Again, feet, knees, chest facing forward for the driver, crew, chest facing aft. Watch how they grab the side of the boat, and look where the rudder is here. It's just popped out of the water, right? They're going up. They're pulling the boat to them. The crew, specifically with that straight arm there, right? Danny's is a little bit bent. But look how far over the boat is here, right? That rudder is significantly out of the water. And here's the key. This is what Danny does so well, is that you'll notice a lot of drivers will sit on the side of the boat and then throw their shoulders out over the side. Here he goes hand switch and has his shoulders out immediately. All right. It starts that mass tip accelerating over right away, and then it'll pop his body back up and to finish it. But notice how these two are exactly together on every step of the way. Sails are eased, almost perfectly in sync with each other's. Maybe the jib is the tiniest bit over trimmed. All right, but flatten, sails are eased. They are still no luff in the sail. Oh no. I'll let this play through one time full speed just so you can see the whole thing. But it's really just the pulling the boat to you. Everything is slow, no rush here until this point right here. But again, look at how straight the crew's arm is. They pull that boat on top, hand switch. At the same time he's switching hands here, again, his shoulders are already out. And with his shoulders out and aft here, he can drop that tiller down and the rudder will just sort of knife into the water and bring them back up to their close hauled course. Remember, we want to come out just low over close hauled course and come up to that as we accelerate. All right. I want to back things up. I skipped this one here. All right, couple things as they go start this tack here. One of the things I want to show you here with this tack is how the boat was heel to leeward, and the driver does a really good thing and stops the boat from heeling to leeward before she goes into her tack. All right, that was obviously who knows what happened before that that they had a little bit of heel. All right, notice she's already put her butt aft a little bit. Face forward, shoulders shoulders squared up with the front of the boat, crew coming over. This one shows the footwork really well. One of the things I like to do, and it drives me nuts, even my guys do it, is having your feet on either side of the centerboard trunk. I can't believe I forgot to bring that up at this point, until this point now. But notice how both feet are on the same side of the boat. When the crew puts keeps their feet straddling the centerboard trunk, when they go to stand up, they're pushing down on this windward side of the boat when we're trying to pull it over on top of us. So keep that in mind. I've got some crews on my team that are still doing it. So again, it drives me nuts, but it's just one of those little things. And then the other idea is just having both feet underneath you, right? Standing up, I don't understand how people try to stand up when their feet are straddling the centerboard trunk here. A lot of you probably have bruises on the inside of your shins, and that's where that comes from. But if you stand here with your feet under you, it makes it really easy to get up to the high side. But step over both the skipper and crew, and even their footwork is timed really well here. And locking that forward foot under the centerboard trunk, or excuse me, the thwart for the driver, so you have something to flatten against. Tiller extension down, big shoulders out to accelerate. Again, here the crew over trim the jib. It's something that we worked on a lot with her. But that entrance, the dangle foot we talked about earlier, the crew's dangle foot, she does a nice job of keeping that up and allowing herself to come back in. But come over, feet together, pull. The crew's pulling the boat over. You can't see their arms here, but we saw in the picture, the other one, crew's straight arm. Dangle foot is on top of the centerboard trunk, comes over, balances the boat, keeps it from feeling too much to windward. Let me just quickly, before I open it up to questions, play one video. I, for some reason, wasn't able to put this on the show, but this is how we practice. Anytime the breeze dies, as soon as the wind dies, we're onto this drill here. This is what I found the most effective way to really get used to finding that point where pull the boat over on top of you anymore, and you're going to capsize. All right. Notice their straight arms. We work really hard at trying to get them to keep that arm straight so that their bodies are more vertical in the boat and they're pulling the boat over on top of them. For this particular drill, what we try to do is actually have them stand on the tanks, on the lured tank. That'll help facilitate it healing. Keep that in mind if you're having a hard time getting the boat healed. Obviously, in a roll tack, we're not going to want them to stand on the lured tanks. But just finding that balance point and using that straight arm to control the angle of the heel. All right. And especially on a hot day in SAISA, this is a good drill because you do end up capsizing a lot. But again, stand on the lured tanks, keep your control of your main sheet. And what we do to really simulate this, make sure if you do this, make sure your tiller extension hand is in that hand that's grabbing the rail, no matter either side the tack or the you're tacking on, and having the main sheet in your hand. So we'll use this drill a lot for the crews or the drivers to work on flattening. We might have the drivers just stand there where we have the crews come up and work on flattening, or vice versa. But I highly suggest doing something like this. Anytime the breeze drops out, go right into this drill where you're just balancing the boat right on the edge of capsizing. Okay. So that's a lot of information that I jammed in there, but it's a lot of information just on tacking. So you can imagine what it's like for all the other stuff. But I would like to ask if you all have any questions, anything I didn't clarify well for you. I know I kind of tend to hop around and skip around here.
You've got a question from someone in the chat on where we can find these videos.
You're recording this, right?
Yeah, so that might be about it.
I tried to set up a YouTube channel last week to put this all on here, and I did it through the work thing, and then it asked me, I did the work thing, and then it asked me how old I was, and I put in that the team's 7 years old, and it said I got to get my parents' permission to start a YouTube channel because I'm only 7. I'll work on setting that up, and I'll let you all know if I can accomplish that. I'm not super tech savvy here.
All right, thank you.
But I will definitely try to set that up, and obviously, with the recording, or just email me. I can probably email the stuff to you.
I've got a question about the crew side of things.
Yep.
So, you know how you use the jib sheet to pull over the boat. Sometimes I find myself trimming in too much because I'm doing a similar thing on the other side. Does that mean I just need to step in earlier from the flatten?
Okay, one second. Let me just kind of tee this up for you here. See, it's no wonder I can't even set up a YouTube channel. I'll just keep this moving here. All right, so the big thing for pulling the boat over on top of you here is making sure you wait for the jib to backwind. I like for the start the roll, especially in, right, it's going to change, but in really light air, let the jib backwind, count 1/1000, and then start your roll. and using that. We don't care about over trimming the jib on this side. So your question is on the other side of it, on the flattened side?
Yes.
Okay, so as you come up, bringing it up with you, but not using that jib sheet to flatten, right? Notice how she brings that up with her, but she's flattening off the, I can't tell if she has her foot under the centerboard trunk or the hiking strap there, but using that to flatten. And it's hard, right, to get, for a lot of us, and we saw some of the video earlier, we use that jib sheet to bring our body back in. So it takes a little bit more, core maybe, and hooking that foot under the thwart or the centerboard trunk, excuse me, or hiking strap to come in, and being just really aware of not hiking off that jib sheet, right? Notice how she'll, as she comes in here, flatten, as she comes in here, she reaches immediately for the jib right up by that centerboard, or right up by that block. She comes in, reaches for it. Now she trims in with that hand there. Does that help answer your question?
Yes. And I actually have one more quick question.
Yeah.
Is there any time that you should not let the jib backwind before starting a tack?
When it's windy and we're not, you're not roll tacking. But I mean, even in the pretty breezy stuff, it's going to backwind a little bit, but definitely that backwind and anything where you're roll tacking. I mean, it's hard. It depends on your level and your size and weight, like how much you roll as a breeze gets heavier. But anything under 5 knots, you're probably letting it backwind, counting to 1/1000, and then rolling. Between 5 and 10, it's backwind roll. 12 and up, it's maybe just backwind and go. Certainly at 15 up, it's just like, maybe not even backwinding. It's just like going from one side to the other. We don't want it to luff, but it's just like pop through and go.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
John, you've got one question in the chat from Hunter Skinner asked, based on the breeze, how are you determining how much to ease the main on exit of the tack? Also, when you're looking to start trimming back in the mainsail on the exit of the tack.
So how much ease, right?
Yeah,
on the
how do
flat?
you determine how much to ease the main as you come out of the tack?
Right. Again, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said depending on the breeze. Certainly the lighter the breeze is, the more the apparent wind is going to shift aft on your flatten. And so the more breeze you have, the less, right? So you'll have to ease less as a breeze increases on that flatten. What I don't think I have a specific for each. Certainly a big ease is going to save you if you try to roll too hard and heavy air, but the best, it's time on the water and playing with it. You'll know if you in 8 knots, if you ease too much, your sail's going to luff.
So the follow-up on that is, what cue are you taking to trim in on the main as you come out of the tack?
That's a really good question. And again, I think it's gonna be determined by wind strength. If the sail starts luffing, you've waited too long. The lighter the breeze, the more the apparent wind shifts back, and you're not gonna, sometimes, especially if you're in a 420 or laser, though, you're gonna accelerate really quickly, and that's gonna move the apparent wind really, in the light stuff, it's gonna move it fast forward. And you'll notice a lot of people, especially in a 420, not so much in FJ because you don't accelerate quite as much, but you'll notice that front edge of the jib bluff, and that's, you just sometimes got to let, you're running over whatever breeze because you've accelerated so much that you're running over the apparent wind, or running over the true wind, excuse me. So you know, is there a solid answer other than, you know, time on the water and doing it over and over again and trying it in different conditions? You know, it never hurts to practice and try to take things to the extreme, right? Easing the sails more than you would think, and see how long, you know, you can keep it from luffing. Be aware that you know, it is possible to run over your true wind with your apparent wind in the really light stuff if you accelerate too much. So I don't know if that's a very clear answer. Either of those are very clear as far as giving you an exact definition. I think it's just going to always be changing.
Yeah, I think it covers just sort of some of the nuance there. There's some good comments in the chat. Nick, the coach from the Citadel, has some thoughts on that. So I think this will continue to be a resource for folks as you come and look at these videos and jump through the chat. Nick, feel free to jump in and deliver that out loud, by the way.
Can I ask a question quick?
Sure.
Do you have any just recommendations for boat handling, especially for like beginners, of like drills that work well when you're coaching?
Especially the first step would be that drill where you're just balancing the boat on the side. That would be where I would start for newbies every opportunity that I had. But is there, you know, to be honest, what we do is we do a lot of rabbit starts into straight line speed and tack on the whistle. And it's really just becomes at that point pushing yourself to work on these different things. I think for newbies, really just keeping in mind the steps, right? Facing aft, shoulders and chest facing aft, trying to get both feet on the same side of the centerboard trunk, pulling the boat over on top of you. And then, you know, for new people, sometimes you have to, don't be afraid to voice to the driver, say, hey, slow things down for me. Let's try to get these things together, you know, talking, communicating
How
prior.
could you practice on a 420? Because you can't really go out with someone unless you ask them and you don't know who they are or where they are.
How can you practice on a 420 when what now? I'm sorry.
If like the other person can't come.
That makes life really difficult. I don't know if there's a good answer for that. I think if it's one person, are you talking as a driver or as a crew?
Anything like either a skipper or a crew.
Yeah, I think for skippers, you know, and you're on, if you have a 420, if you take the jib off and, you know, just go out by yourself, you can do that. Certainly if you have a laser, going out in the laser and doing the same thing, right? As far as the laser, all these same things apply. Obviously if you don't have a partner, it's going to be pretty difficult in a double-handed boat.
Unless you turtle it, then you're screwed.
Yeah, yeah, you probably don't want to do that then. All right. Dana, how are we looking? We have any more?
Yeah,
I
so
can ask another question. Oh,
Yep,
go
feel
ahead
free
with
to jump in.
Jerry's question.
I'm sorry.
I'll read Jerry's question from the chat, and then I have my own question. So Jerry said, what are some of the most effective drills you've used for roll tacks besides tack on the whistle?
I don't know. I think the two that I was covering, really, I mean, any going outside, you don't even need a coach, right? You don't, there's no specific drill necessarily for tacking. It's not, you know, we don't do anything like the opti where, you know, one whistle tack and then pause and wait and do a second whistle and switch. So to be honest, I don't have a good drill necessarily as far as roll tack drills, other than just going out there and doing it over and over and over again. I always tell my guys that if you capsize 1,000 times, you'll be good at this. You know, that's the key is not being afraid to capsize on your packs and finding those limits. But you don't need it. You need a crew, you need or a driver, but you don't need coaches. You don't need anything. You just need a boat and someone to sail with and go out and do it again and again and again and work on pulling that boat over on top of you.
So John, Nick had some suggestions of a cone drill and an Elvstrom drill. I think you can find some of those resources online. We had another question. Could you break down the behind the back tiller handoff for skippers some more?
Yeah, let me go back to nope, that's the wrong one. I'll try to bear with me if I miss this. Again, that's a really good question because this is one of the hardest parts, right? To get. Once you get it, then you got it. It's easy. But the timing between sitting on the side, right, pulling the boat over, releasing, getting your butt up there, and I always say switch and sit. It's not sit and switch, and it's not switch and sit. It's switch and sit. It's got to be almost, the timing has to be almost simultaneous. But notice how he just sits and switches. But the couple real keys, like I was saying before, thumb towards your hip, fingers down for your main sheet hand, and don't reach for it. Keep that main sheet hand at your hip. If you're reaching for it, you're gonna get I'm sure all of you have gotten the tiller extension in the life jacket before. When you reach for the tiller extension, that's where you get the problem, or get the tiller extension being stuck behind your back. Look at here's his left hand. It might be kind of blurry, right? Is all the way behind his back. It's like, I don't know if you, right, all the way behind his back and passing that to that free hand. I give my guys a stick and they can't get it right, and just say, here, pass this to your free hand, right? Don't reach for it. Similar to, basketball players just dribbling a basketball all over the place. Here's your tiller extension. Go learn how to switch hands. I have a lot of Europeans on our team, so it's a real issue for us getting that hand switch done. The Europeans, like I said, are a bunch of wankers and they don't know how to switch hands. But to me, those are the keys. Pull with a tiller extension hand, you're pulling the boat over, work on switch and sit, and passing that free hand, passing the tiller extension to that free hand. Let me just back this up so you can see the difference, right? As soon as his cheeks are on the rail, that forward cheek is on the rail, the hand switch is done. So get those, where your butt meets your legs, right? That little crease right there, that's got to hit the rail and lock your fanny onto the rail. All right, that's where you get the body control, is getting that part of your butt. All right, let's try to, you can see his cheeks are just to the outside of that gunnel, that rail, and that locks your body in along with your foot under the traveler bar or thwart on an FJ. And as soon as that happens, you have the control to switch and sit. Hopefully that helps answers your question.
So Cole Warner has a question wondering about how to maintain boat speed around a windward mark rounding.
That might be a topic for another night. Maybe we'll go into more boat handling things around the marks. Cole, if you want to email me, we can share my email address. I'm happy to address that for you at another point.
Yeah, I think we are getting pretty close to an hour, and we want to And
Yeah.
respect everyone's time. John, this has been, I think, a master class in the nuance of roll tacking, and I know my team is we're gonna watch this several times and learn from it. And I suspect other teams throughout the conference will do the same. Thank you for presenting tonight. Thanks for everybody for participating. Coming up next Tuesday, we've got another session, and I'm totally lacking the details right now. Give me 1 second and I'll tell you. Next Tuesday, we're on with me. I am presenting on organizing, hosting, and developing a home regatta. We'll talk a little bit about what we've learned in a couple of years of putting on some regattas that I hope you guys have enjoyed and found competitive and challenging. So
Yeah, let me just put an advertisement in for that. I am definitely going to be attending that. Dana puts on the best college regatta in the country, year in and year out. My favorite regatta ever. And so I will certainly be attending, and the coaches that work with me as well. So,
well, no pressure. Thanks, John.
we're
Thanks to
excited.
everybody thanks to everybody who joined. Again, we'll make John's available. Most everybody should have his email.
If anyone has further questions, please shoot me an email, shoot me a text. We can, I don't know, Dana, if you can link that in on this form or whatever, but
Yeah, John, what's your email real quick? I forget. J. Faudree?
I'm happy to help answer any questions.
All right. Guys, everybody, we're going to have this session recorded. We're going to probably stop recording now, but John, thanks again. And
Thank you,
we'll
guys.
Keep marching on the SAISA Speaker Series.